Hey everybody, this is future Got Next Gaming. As we take a look here, we're coming into the game, about to get into the start. Just wanted to kind of quickly let you guys know this is a really long video. I decided to do a little monologue here in the beginning to let you know that, putting the ship together. Also, about halfway through this, we lost my commentary, and there'll be some voiceover later on. I'll probably pop up some text on the screen to let you know when that happens. Otherwise, enjoy the video. Thanks for your support. Hello everyone and welcome to Space Engineers, our noob guide here on the Xbox One. We are getting ready. In this episode, we are going to build ourselves our first spaceship. We're going to outer space, folks. Very similar to what we did here with the planetary miner, we're gonna do with a spaceship, and this is just gonna be a let's get to space type of deal. It's not gonna be a space mining vehicle, but we definitely want to be able to get out to space. Now, in order to do this build, we're gonna need quite a bit of material and resources and everything else, and we're gonna have to work on all of that. Now, we have plenty of ice here because we are on this lake here, this frozen lake, which is going to come in super handy as we're building our ship. For the reason being is we're going to be using the hydrogen thrusters in this. So we'll use atmospheric thrusters on it as well as hydrogen thrusters. Now, I have done builds of ships, and I'm going to be completely honest and transparent here. This is going to be a little bit of a test for me as well, because I've never built one on a planet such as like an Earth-type planet, right? Where you have full gravity. I've never done it where we have the full gravity. So we're going to need, I've always done it like off of a moon or Mars, and I feel like we're going to need a lot of power to do it. I do know some tricks and techniques to kind of save fuel when you're doing your run up to space, but we want to make sure that we have enough. We also want to make sure that these line up properly. There they go. You can see them line up, the red and the green. We want to make sure they line up properly. These are your hydrogen tanks. We're going to use 2 of them here. We're going to want 2 full tanks for our spaceship again, because I'm not sure how much fuel we're really going to need off of those hydrogen thrusters to break the atmosphere of this Earth-like planet. You can see down at the peak gravity is 1.0 Gs, and that's full. I've done it from a moon. I've done it from Mars where they're 0.25 or 0.30. This is significantly more gravity for sure. Next, we're going to want to pop in our H2O2 generator for the ship. We're going to build 2 of these as well. It's going to need, like I said, a significant amount of resource to do this. The reason why we're going to do 2 is because of the type of cockpit we're going to put on here. Again, we want to make sure these line up. This way they work perfectly. I think it's got to go down a little bit. There we go. Boom. This has the large port on the front of this and the 2 small ports on the back. So now what we can do here is we can place this guy, push the guy in there. So we have that, and it's done, right? So now we have the 2 oxygen generators, big port here, 2 small ports, and then 2 small ports again with the big port for the back of this. So now, when you're doing this, typically what you could do is if you're doing this and you're only doing 1 O2 generator, you can use this cockpit here because it has the 2 small ports at the back of it, and it has the 1 large one on the bottom there. We're not going to be using this one here. We're going to use the fighter pilot one, the fighter jet one instead, because it has the large port on the back of it. Can we see that? Yeah, there we go. So it has a large port on the back, so that'll work for that to provide oxygen to the cockpit for us, and we're going to get this all turned around the right way. Whoops. There we go. And again, I want to make sure this lines up appropriately, and that'll line up right there very well. Now this uses more material, but it's kind of cooler looking, and again, it has that huge port on the back, the large size port on the back for the connection, because we're going to go with 2 O2 H2 generators and then 2 oxygen tanks on here, because we're going to want significantly more fuel to get us rolling. Now we do have the one port in the front for the conveyor. We could put most small conveyors in the front to build drills if we wanted to. We're not going to put drills on this time. We're just going to kind of build a basic ship, get all the necessary components that we need in order to get to outer space, and I will go over all of that with you guys here. What we're also going to want to do on here is place a medium-sized cargo container. Again, making sure that this lines up with the port, large port there, and you have the two small ports on the side, which will come in handy later on. So now that we have that there, we're going to go ahead and get into our large hydrogen thruster. We'll do that one first. Alright, so we're into our assembler here, and we're working on all the components that we need. I added it to the build planner to make it a little bit easier. It's going to be slow going here as far as this material goes. To bring it back in, we're going to have to add the hydrogen thruster on after the fact. We have to build the hydrogen tank first. I don't think I have it unlocked, if I'm not mistaken. I have to take a look at my progression tree here. Alright, so we got our first hydrogen tank welded up. You can see how that fits in there. And then we're going to go ahead. We had to get that done first before we could do the hydrogen thrusters. I forgot all about the progression tree for a second, and that's kind of where I had to stop and jump in. So that's a weird cut there. We're going to drop this right on the back of here, and we need steel plates, which we don't have any on us. That's interesting. I thought I brought some with me. Much better. This should line up right there. Yep. Yes, it does. Start welding that up. We do have some of the pieces on us. And we'll finish off this medium container as well. So that's gone on there. So we have the large thruster on the back. We should be okay with just one of these because we're going to put a bunch of smaller thrusters facing backwards as well. And I'll show you all of that. And I'm going to get the rest of this welded up before we move on to the thrusters, just so you can see where we're connecting this stuff and how it works for us. Alright, so we're going to finish up our fighter cockpit here, and we need the bulletproof glass to completely finish it off. But that makes it functional right there. So it's functional. We've got some of these pieces all functional here. We need some small and large steel tubes for this guy here. And we're working on that. That's all being produced as we go. Alright, next piece that we're going to add on here is some small conveyors so that we can get enough thrusters on the ship, hydrogen thrusters on the ship, to get us out of the atmosphere. So go on over to your small thrusters there in your radial. Right there. Small conveyors, I mean. And got that right on there. I'm going to do this here and that. I'm going to drop down and drop one right underneath. That'll give us a good platform to stick a whole bunch of them facing backwards on. Alright, so we got our thrusters, we have our conveyors, I'm sorry, thrusters. I got thrusters on the ring. We have our conveyors bolted up to the sides there. 3 on each side, so we can, like I said, add those rear thrusters in there. Alright, large steel tubes, we have enough of those, and there goes the large hydrogen thruster on the back of the ship. We got that. There is also ports here too, right? So we can use these to our advantage by putting thrusters on there. I don't know, thinking about this now, you need at least 2 lock space to go backwards here. I don't know if this one sticks out far enough to not do damage. It probably won't, to be honest with you. So we're going to have to utilize this here for the side thrust, which is fine because we're going to put a couple there. We'll put a couple here too, and maybe one there to help out with that for the side thrusters. Alright, so we got our hydrogen thrusters here. We're going to slap a few of these on here. We'll put one there. I should give us enough thrust to go up. Well, you have to use that as like kind of the thrusters to break the atmosphere. So we're going to put on the sides here, we're only going to put 1 in each of these spots here for the hydrogen thrusters. One on the side there. We'll put 1 there. And we will put 1 there. That will give us plenty of side thrust for this side, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. That one we're going to have to place last because it is sitting on our port there for the downward facing thrusters. So that should be enough thrusters for us to kind of do what we need to do with the ship and maneuvering it around. And we're going to get all those welded up, get all the resources we need to do those, and get it all welded up, and we'll come back in when we have that all completed, as well as that hydrogen tank too. Alright, we are working on these here. We're getting close. I have a couple of them completed. We have all our conveyors completed. We have a small thruster here completed. We're just waiting on material to be produced. While we're doing that, let's kind of take a look at the base here. Done some work here. I've taken down the tower that was here with the original wind turbine on it. Built kind of a wind farm here, sort of, so to speak. Just building it all the way up and then putting two on top and then one on the side there. You can put another one on either side of these too. Like you can do at least wrap 3 around. So you'll get a lot more wind power there. And it should be producing more than enough for us if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a drop down on there. So we also built in ourselves some interior walls here to kind of fortify a little bit and start shaping some of the base. I also put down this little scaffolding here with the stairs going up and down to where the ships will connect to our large cargo container. And then I just started filling in some of the light armor blocks here, as well as we're starting to rely more on the base and not so much our drop ship, or spawn ship, which is now gone. Completely gone. I took it out. There's the leftover remains of it, the gravel that was in the survival kit. That is the remains of our respawn pod. So we don't have that anymore. We're relying solely on the base. We have everything we need here. We have a medical room. We have our O2H2 generator. And we're just waiting for materials to produce to finish off the ship. We're going to be working on the atmospheric thrusters next. So now we're going to be finishing up our hydrogen thrusters here. And the ship is now ready to accept atmospheric thrusters. We have a nice build here going. You can see all the hydrogen thrusters we have on. Everything is welded up to this point. And we do have to add in a few more necessities as we go. Now we kind of want to line up our atmospheric thrusters here. We're going to start with our 2 large ones first. So we'll select those large atmospheric thrusters and we're going to place them closer to the front of the ship here, right where the O2H2 generators are. You can kind of put them anywhere, really. Doesn't necessarily have to be right here, but that will be where I'm going to put them for now. Again, this is just all the necessities of the ship. You can kind of build this in any order you want, in any way you want, in any shape or form that you want as well. These are the pieces you're going to need in order to be able to break atmosphere from the Earth-like planet. Now, in placing those atmospheric thrusters, I realized something here on the front of the ship. We have hydrogen thrusters in every direction going up, down, left, and right. And then for the reverse thrust as well in the back to kind of propel us forward, but we don't have anything in the front of the ship to slow us down or to brake us. So here what we're going to do is we're going to use that port on the front of the cockpit there to build these small conveyors on the front of this here. And the design I'm using right here to show you right now is we're going to do one right dead center in the middle, we're going to do one above and one below, and then I'm going to do 2 to the left and to the right. I'm not going to finish this here. What I'm doing is I'm showing you this because this is how you would place drills if you wanted to. So you'd put the drills on the 2 on the either side of it, and then you would be able to leave these ports in the middle for your hydrogen thrusters, like we're going to add on right here. So we'll add on the small hydrogen thrusters, 3 of them up front, right smack dab in the middle. Next, we're going to add our battery here into the ship, and we're going to kind of place it on top of the generators, which is a nice little spot there where it kind of fits in very nicely behind the cockpit and just in front of the hydrogen tanks. Next, we're going to be adding in the regular atmospheric thrusters, the smaller ones here, and these are going to be used for every direction. So we're going to put 4 of them in the front of the ship for reverse thrust. This way you can, again, break the ship in atmosphere. We'll put 2 on each side here, left and right of the cockpit in the front, and you're going to need to place one down and then stack the other one on top in this particular design. Again, you can do this any way you really need to. Then we'll go ahead and place them in every direction, so 2 facing left and then 2 facing right here on top of the hydrogen tanks. And I did it the way I did it just for aesthetic reasons, to make it look as clean as possible, but they're going to make sure, you need to make sure they're facing in either direction for that. And then we're going to place 4 on the back. And again, you can use the hydrogen thrusters here as a guide to where you want to place them. 2 on top and 2 on the bottom. Again, place them any way you want as long as you're able to get at least 4 of them in there to provide enough thrust for you while you're in atmosphere. That's kind of like this is your forward thrust at this point. Now we're going to add on our last little bits and pieces here for the top of the ship. We're going to add in the ore detector, and then we're going ahead and put in the antenna on top here. And we're just placing them in here again for mostly aesthetic reasons. They kind of fit in nicely, and they don't protrude too badly from the ship. This way, if you're building armor around the ship and stuff like that, you can kind of hide them nicely. But again, your discretion into where you want to place them. Just want to make sure you have these so you don't lose your ship, and you know where to find the ore. Now we're going to have to make sure we go around and weld up all the last little bits and pieces for the ship that we have left over here. And we can now take a look at the ship, and we are mostly complete. We've got to get some ice in this guy, and we'll take a nice little fly around to take a look at it. You can see it in all its glory. And as I'm flying around here, I noticed that we are missing a few pieces that are very important. We did the same thing on the atmospheric ship. So let's go ahead and add in our gyroscopes here. Definitely going to need those in order to control the ship, and we don't want to make that mistake again where we almost forgot those in the last one. We almost forgot them here again too. And it's just a small detail, but it's very easy to miss. Here now we're going to move on, and we're going to get into the ship itself. We have everything powered up and ready to go. We want to go ahead and put our blocks together to make this easier to control. So what you're going to want to do is make sure you group all of your atmospheric thrusters together and all of your hydrogen thrusters together to have them turn on and off in a very easy way. So you go ahead and you're going to do a quick search here. It'll be easier to get all your atmospheric thrusters because the large ones will separate from the smaller ones in the list, and then they're hard to kind of highlight. Highlight them all, go over, create a block group. I just call them Atmo. You can call them whatever you want to call them at that point. Make sure that you do save. If you do not save, they will not create that group for you at the top, which is now called Atmo. And then we're going to do the same thing for the hydrogen thrusters. We'll go ahead and we'll type in hydro, and that should be able to pull up the hydrogen thrusters for us. And there's a lot of them, so make sure that you grab all of those. You do highlight all of them. Again, the large ones would separate from the regular small ones, so you need to make sure that you're grabbing that large one in there as well to put into the block altogether. And here I just call it hydro for hydrogen, making it nice and easy. Again, making a group, making sure you save, and now you have all of your hydrogen thrusters all together in a group block, which will make things nice and easy when you're going to try to place them. So if you push and hold up on your control pad D, it opens up that little radial menu. I've mentioned this before. We're going to go down to groups, RB down to the groups, and then pick your group there. The first one is Atmo, so we'll have the atmospheric thrusters in the top one, and then we'll do the same thing for the hydrogen. We'll go down to groups, we'll select the hydro, we push down on the D-pad, then we select the toggle block on and off, and we hold that there. So now we can turn off the hydrogen and the atmospheric engines very easily just by pressing on the D-pad on or off. So you're going to want the hydrogen ones off as you're going into space, and you'll see that later on as we're going, and then you want to switch to turn them on as we get higher up into the atmosphere. And that's it there. We can see the battery has some charge on it, and it is charging up. We're going to add a hydrogen engine in here later on to help with that. But now we need to go get ice now to fuel the ship. So I'm going to use my atmospheric planetary miner here, and I'm going to go grab some ice right off the lake. And you can do this however you want to do this. If you have a planetary miner, you can use that and go grab ice like I did. But we're going to grab as much as we possibly can here that we can handle as far as like what this will load up on. And then we're going to want to put that into the ship for the hydrogen tanks once we get enough ice. This is kind of a tedious process because I'm grabbing all of this here, and then I'm going to have to manually move it over into the ship. It does take quite a while. There are easier ways to do this, and we'll get into that somewhere down the road where we're kind of putting the base together a little bit better to explain most of that. But I'm going to have to go into the port here on the bottom of the cockpit, or you can go into the cockpit and sit down and just transfer this ice over. It will then transfer over to the H2O2 generators and start transforming that into hydrogen to put into the tanks and fill those up. So we'll take a look at the control panel here, and we'll jump on down. You can see the hydrogen tank is starting to fill up. Holds 160,000 liters, and that's going to take quite a while to load, but we do have plenty of ice. We did grab a whole bunch of it, and it is in our large storage container or in the planetary miner as well. So those hydrogen tanks are filling up, and they're going to get to 100%, and then we want a little bit left over extra in the medium storage a container on the ship to have extra for kind of refilling the tanks a little bit as we go. All right, here is the inaugural cutting and disconnecting of the ship. Knock out that little steel block, and there it is. Full hydrogen tanks, 2 of them. We have extra ice in storage, and you can see the atmospheric thrusters doing their jobs and holding the ship in place. We'll jump on in here and we'll get ready to make our ascent. You can see the tanks are full. I have that hydrogen engine there as well, and that is giving us a little power to the battery there, because we only have 1 battery on the ship. And again, I was kind of concerned about power, so I did add the hydrogen engine in to the bottom of this to get this guy enough power to go. So now we're going to go on up. Here you're going to want to start off, and you're just going to kind of go straight on up here. You hold on that A button, and your hydrogen engines are off at this point, and you're just using strictly your atmospheric thrusters. And just the up thrust here, when you think about it, those 2 large atmospheric thrusters are doing all the work here. You can see your speed is pegged at 99.84 meters per second, and you'll continuously rise. You'll see the numbers on the ship itself right next to the antenna, going up to 2,600 to 2,700 meters. This will keep going up, and you'll start to see the speed bleed off after a while. Once you're starting to get up there around, I think it's around 5,000, 4,000 or 5,000. Nope, actually it might be 5,000, where you'll see the speed bleed off a little on the ship. There it goes now, right around 5,000. Like I said, the speed starts to drop off as we're going up, because now it's getting harder for those atmospheric thrusters to do their job the higher up that you get. So I recommend, when you see the speed drop down significantly and you feel like it's starting to slow the ascent of the ship, you want to switch on those hydrogen engines at that point in order to maintain the thrust of the ship. We're going to be doing that soon. I think I do it around 7,000 here. We're going to wait and see. There it goes. Yep, right close to 7,000. We kick on those hydrogen engines. See that bottom one there is firing in full blast. But you're going to want to then pitch the ship upwards and then push up on the left stick in order to get that forward thrust going. And you see all of those rear engines, hydrogen engines, kick on pretty high, and they are pushing with their full force there. And the speed now goes right back up to the 99.92 meters per second. We've turned off the atmospheric engines at this point. You can see our power now, and the battery's up to 8 years of power there because we've turned that off. At this point, you'd want to turn on your inertial dampeners. I kind of didn't do this right away, and that was a mistake on my part. I waited a little bit, and you should do that much sooner. Right about here is where you can do it, right around the 8,000 mark, and that will help save some fuel. You can see here, I'm already at the 19,000 mark, and I did not turn off the inertial dampeners until right there, right around 20,000 meters. I finally turned them off, and this you can kind of let it coast a little bit, and you're just going to kind of pulse the engines as you go in order to get to space to save some fuel. You can see I'm down to 64% on the hydrogen there already, and I should be much higher than this, but again, I wasted fuel because I was fighting my own engines, right? The inertial dampeners are causing the ship to slow down as I'm letting off of that stick because those front engines are firing, and you just need to turn those off so it doesn't try to slow the ship down to a stop for you. That's what those inertial dampeners are for. You want to turn them off much sooner than I did there. Okay, now at this point here, we are getting close. If you take a look at that peak gravity, it's at 0.05 now. We're at about 39,000 meters, and you'll see the meters disappear, and you'll see the zero gravity. Now you are in space. You can literally let off the engines. The ship will coast at about 100 meters per second, and you can use the momentum of it to kind of get it moving around. Now we're going to transition back here. We've made it out to space, and we're going to get ready to go back home. This was just a test flight to get to space and then come right back in. This is intended to be a reusable ship, and we're going to bring it back to the planet with us now. And we should have enough fuel here to kind of get this going. All we need to do is turn off those dampeners again once we get back into the atmosphere there and let it do its thing. Let the momentum and the weight of it and gravity pull it right back down to the planet, and there should be enough fuel for it to do so. And here we are now. You can see we're going on in. And at this point here, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you position your ship in such a way that you are bringing it as close to your base as possible. This way you're not using too much fuel and too much power to get back to the base. I just kind of show you here what that looks like. I didn't really get as close as I could have, or probably should have, in my re-entry here, but you want to kind of get it facing back and getting it right above that base. I'm way off from it here. I'd want to thrust it forward, much more forward, getting as above that base as possible, as much as close to above that base as possible. They're going to kind of drop down straight as possible as well. Again, this is going to help save your fuel and conserve your power when you're using those atmospheric thrusters later on. Now we're on the 6,000 meter mark. Here's where you want to turn on your atmospheric thrusters, turn on your inertial dampeners, and you're going to be able to slow this ship down at this point. Right now we're free falling at 104 meters per second. We are waiting a little bit longer than I probably should have here to turn them on. I finally do turn them on here, and then, like I said, you'll eventually see this kick in to the point where it's going to slow the ship down. We're going to level off our flight, and we're going to kind of thrust forward to get closer to our base here. But we're making our way back to base now, and we can definitely slow our ascent into the planet atmosphere and into our base. We're going to have to make a long trip to get back home, but we're going to be doing that, and we're getting closer and closer here. You can see using those atmospheric thrusters now to get the ship back up a little bit higher as we try to clear these mountains going back into our base. However, that's going to do it for this one here, folks. I want to thank you guys for checking this out. Leave your comments below. Leave a like for the video. Subscribe if you're new. We'll have more of these coming up very soon. I was on vacation there a little bit, taking a break from this, but now we're back, and I hope to be doing a lot more of these, and possibly bringing this into a season 2 where we go and we do another planet or another type of planet like a moon or something to that effect. But anyway, thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.